So bali yung mangyayari pala sir, 'di ba kukuha kayo dun sa field tapos
Mhm.
dadalhin sa lab.
Mhm.
Yung sample na yun papaanakin tapos yung anak magkakaroon din ng
Mhm.
anak,
Yeah,
tapos
yeah,
magkakaroon ulit ng
yeah,
anak.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Mhm. Mhm.
Hanggang sa may makita kayo na parang
Na
better.
better or the best among the rest. Tipong gano'n.
Magandang araw mga kapwa siyentista at welcome sa Behind the Science podcast kung saan kakausapin natin ang ating mga scientists para ibahagi hindi lang ang mga resulta ng pag-aaral nila, kundi pati na rin ang mga behind the scenes or behind the science stories nito. Simula sa kung paano nila ito naisipan gawin hanggang sa na-publish na nila ito. Our guest for today finished his doctorate in biology at the University of Bremen in Germany and is currently a professor at the UP Marine Science Institute. He leads the Algal Ecophysiology Laboratory where they study the biology, biochemistry, and ecophysiology of tropical marine macroalgae. And in 2022, he ranked as one of the world's top 2% of scientists. So without further ado, let's all welcome Dr. Michael Roleda.
Good afternoon, good day sa lahat. You may call me Mikey.
So, ang pag-uusapan natin for this episode ay seaweed. Pero bago tayo pupunta doon, pag-usapan muna natin yung backstory ni Sir Mikey. So, Sir, can you tell us, paano nyo po na-realize na gusto nyo maging isang scientist and also yung naging journey nyo as a scientist?
Okay, so that is quite a long story, no? Kasi as far as I could remember, when I was in elementary, so every June ba yun, yung pag-end ng class, meron tayong commencement exercise. I think I was in grade 4, tapos naalala ko very clearly na merong program, and then I was made to recite na when I grow up, I want to be a scientist. So that's stick in my mind na parang yung speech ko na I want to become a scientist. But I forgot about that, no? When I was in college, I was relatively good in science and mathematics. And then my professor told me to become an engineer, no? Kasi magaling daw ako sa math. Pero sabi ko, I don't like to be an engineer. So I'd rather take biology. So I took biology, and then parang after finishing BS Bio, I was thinking, what now? So para bang it's a smorgasbord ba tawag dyan, that you could be anything and everything. So since hindi naman ako nag-proceed to medicine, I landed as a med rep, so selling drugs, no? And then I get tired of it after a couple of years working as a med rep, and I decided, I think I'd like to proceed to do a master's study. And then it so happened na I came up to the University of the Philippines Diliman portal, no, and then I inquired, and there was I started my master's program in biology. Hindi ko pa alam noon na meron palang Marine Science Institute, no. So I had one semester at a biology department, and then when I realized there was an MSI, I transferred to MSI. So yon, no, and then parang fascination ko din dati is more on corals and fish, no. So after that, after finishing my coursework, wala akong mapasukang thesis topic, no. And then it so happened that somebody offered me a silver platter to do research in seaweed. And then since then, so that was like 1992. Since then, I was just studying seaweed. Also, para bang your passion could be developed, no? So doon ko na realize after getting to know self-learning about seaweed that I fall in love with seaweed. So since 1992, so it has been more than 20 years or almost 30 years. I don't do my mathematics correctly now. So from 1992 to now, so I had just been working on seaweeds.
Ang galing po ng kwento niyo na yung pagpunta nyo pala sa seaweed, hindi siya yung original plan nyo. Nangyari lang dahil may nag-present na opportunity.
Yes, yes.
And
So, oo, tama po yun. So, hindi yun ang first love ko. So, yung parang first love ko dati or yung aking iniilusyon is yung mga corals at saka mga fish, no? And then when I get to see the beauty of seaweed, hindi ko na kayang iwanan. Oh, so, doon na nahulog yung puso ko sa seaweeds.
pero hindi nyo po sinubukan during the past 20 years ng career nyo, hindi nyo po sinubukan balikan aralin yung corals and fish.
I did anything and everything photosynthetic, no? So I did microalgae, mga diatoms, no? And phytoplankton. And then also, since corals are photosynthetic organism and it has a symbiotic microalgae, no, in coral. So para bang I could anytime go into ecophysiology of corals. As a matter of fact, ngayon I am an internal reader sa isang PhD student working on corals. No? So anything about carbon physiology, photosynthesis, primary production, that is something that I could work on too.
Ay, regarding sa seaweed pala, sir, curious ako kasi madalas kapag pinag-uusapan yung marine biology, yung interest ng mga tao na pupunta sa corals or yung mga sea turtles, whales, ganon. So, yung sa seaweed ba, kung ikukumpara mo yung proportion ng mga tao na interested sa seaweed sa other subfields ng marine biology, where does it rank? Madami bang
Oo.
interested din sa seaweed or
Yeah.
relatively konti siya?
Relatively konti. So, I think napansin mo din, no, na talaga ang mga tao or mga estudyante may bias against seaweed, no? So, para bang, kasi sa terminology paling na seaweed, so pag sinabi mong weed, ang sama ng connotation, parang walang kwenta, no? So, kaya minsan, we prefer to call it macroalgae, so macroscopic algae, tipong ganon, no? Pero, I think it's more of maybe educating people or making it more accessible sa mga estudyante kung ano ang mga ecological functions, ano ang nakukuha natin sa seaweed to make it more attractive. So, tama ka no na ang mga tao would prefer to study whale shark, whales, turtles, corals, fish, no? So, I think itong bias na to siguro nagsimula ito sa pag-aaral natin sa elementary, no, that we are exposed on the beauty of what is moving, no, or no, na tipong hindi natin masyado nabibigyan ng halaga ang mga halaman or mga photosynthetic organism. I think it's a matter of ano siguro paano natin tinuturo during elementary, high school na mabigyan pansin ang mga halaman natin, so especially the seaweed din.
Mas na-enjoy lang natin kainin yung seaweed. Para
Oo.
hindi natin siya inaaraw.
Yeah, yung pagkain ng seaweed nga tipong I think hindi pa din ganun kadami sa Pilipinas ang kumakain ng seaweed. So compared to other Asian countries like for example Korea, Japan, no, na ang kanilang tradition in eating seaweed is much more prevalent compared to the Philippines. Siguro meron lang tayong mga ibang regions sa Pilipinas, for example in Ilocos, no, so northern part of the Philippines or sa Cebu, no, na talagang kumakain sila ng seaweed. Kasi siguro yung ibang mga taga Manila pagka tinanong mo, baka hindi din sila ganun ka-familiar. Pero slowly, no, we get to know seaweed na ginagamit natin or kinakain natin as salad. No? But there are more than eating seaweed as salad. Madami pa siyang pwedeng gawin.
Sa Pilipinas ba, sir, ano usually yung way ng pagkain ng mga Pinoy sa seaweed? Kasi for example, sa Japan, di ba, ginagamit nila yan para sa sushi. Yung
Yes.
naka-sheets. Sa
Oo.
Pilipinas, salad lang talaga siya or may ibang
Oo,
luto din?
mostly sa Pilipinas as salad, no? So yung tinatawag nating sea grapes or lato. So tinatawag nating lato or meron din tayong mga guso or mga gulaman, no? So these are different species of seaweed. So yung lato is a green seaweed na hinuhugasan lang lang to, tapos ihahaluan ng suka, ng tomato and onions, at pwede na kainin. Yung iba naman na medyo chewy, like for example, Gracilaria or Eucuma, no? So these are red seaweed, but their color could be brown or green or red, no? Usually they're blanched first. So iba-blanch sila para lumambot ng konti, tapos dadagdagan na naman ng how do you call this, suka, and then mga kung ano-anong how do you call this, yung panglamas ang tawag namin, no? So yung tomato or onions, and then you could eat it as a salad. And I think sa Ilocos, sa Cagayan, they do eat seaweed more than a salad. So, for example, sa Ilocos, nag-harvest sila ng sargassum, yung mga tips ng sargassum, it's a brown seaweed, at hinahalo nila sa kanilang pagluto ng sinigang. So, or anything soup, no, para to make the soup more, how do you call this, yung mas malapot, no? And then, nag-harvest din sila ng species na, how do you call this, species that is related to yung mga nori, no? Meron din tayo niyan sa Northern Luzon. And then, inaano nila yun, hinahaluan ng itlog, no? So, and then ginigisa nila with seaweed. So, madami tayong mga traditional way of eating seaweed, especially sa Northern Luzon. So, it's more than eating it as a salad.
Ito pala sir, very basic na question. Ano yung pinagkaiba ng seaweed sa seagrass?
Okay, that's a very good question. No? So, seagrass are true plants. No? So, seagrass are true plants, and then meron silang root. No? And then seagrass also bear flowers and fruit. No? So, it's a true plant. And seaweed, no? Seaweed are, how would we say it? It's more primitive. So, wala siyang root structure. Wala siyang root. So, parang meron siyang tinatawag na hold fast. So, ito yung pang-attach niya sa substrate, no? And then it doesn't bear flower or fruit, no? So, pero meron tayong group of seaweed, like for example, the green and the red seaweed, they belong to kingdom Plantae, just like our terrestrial plant, that they belong to kingdom Plantae. What is very interesting, kasi meron tayong group of seaweed that are itong brown seaweed natin. Our brown seaweed is much more related to diatoms. And they are grouped as seaweed, pero they belong to two different phyla. No? So, meron tayong phylum Plantae, at saka yung brown seaweed, it belongs to phylum, ano na nga ba siya ngayon? I think it's Heterocontophyta na yata siya ngayon. So, the taxonomic classification has been changing. It used to be Ochrophyta, and ngayon Heterocontophyta na yata siya.
Speaking of that pala sir, bakit nagbabago-bago yung ano?
Yeah,
Yung
no.
taxonomic classification over time.
So that's this ano yon. That's a human concept, no. And then kasi tayo mga tao, wala tayong ginawa kundi we categorize different organisms based on our definition. So it's a human concept, no. Para bang it's more of the necessity para mapangalanan natin, parang fina-file natin siya sa iba't ibang category. And then this classification is based on certain characteristics, no? So ano ba ang in terms of pigment or biochemistry or cell structure or phylogenetic, ang kanyang how do you call this, relatedness ng mga organism, considering evolutionary relationship, tipong ganon, no? So it's a human concept, itong mga classification natin. So as soon as merong mga improvements sa mga tools natin, mga molecular tools, and then paghihiwalay-hiwalay na naman natin or i-regroup naman or papangalanan na naman ng panibagong genus or panibagong species. So it's a human concept, and it's more of siguro more of to give us some grasp, no, how to group them together, how to put them in different shelves, something ganon.
Pag ganun sir, paano nyo nakikip track kapag nagkaroon ng pagbabago?
Na change. Yeah, very good question. So, meron tayong how do you call this? Meron tayong online na mga how do you call this? Website, no, na And then may mga publications din tayo, no, na sinasabi na ito ay dati this species and now this is this species. So natatrap naman yon, no, natatrap. So kailangan lang siguro ng mga housekeeping, no. For example, yung dating Enteromorpha is now Ulva. So yon, no. So we are able to keep track on this, pero not all researcher, not all scientists are very aware of this, no, especially kung mga applied scientists, no, na nakakakita ka ng mga publications in terms of chemistry ng seaweed, and then they're using the old names or they're using the incorrect names. So this is prevalent, no. So kaya minsan pagka nag-literature search ka, mahirap na ano yung kailangan mo ng effort to do housekeeping, na sasabihin mo, okay, this was previously published as Enteromorpha intestinalis, and now it's Ulva intestinalis, no? So, oo, ganun lang siguro.
Parang additional work talaga siya na
Yeah.
Ayun. So since pinag-uusapan na rin naman na po natin yung seaweed, punta na po tayo dun sa isa sa mga recent publications nyo. At ang title nito ay Reproductive Biology and Novel Cultivar Development of the Hirapasahin. Eucumatoid Capophycus alvarezi.
Capophycus alvarezi. Yeah.
Ay, so sir, ano lang pala, anong ibig sabihin ng cultivar?
Cultivar is more of kung i-compare natin yan sa sa rice, no. So parang panibagong strain or panibagong binhi or panibagong klase. So it's more of in terms of different strain of crop. So kung ang crop natin is rice, so may tatawag tayo ng different different strain or different cultivar of rice. So parang ganun dun sa seaweed na the cultivated species is called Capophycus alvarezi, but we have different cultivars, and these different cultivars are basically meron din siyang how do you call this differences in terms of their genetic diversity, no, or of their genetic makeup. So para sabihin mo na meron tayong red rice, brown rice, white rice, yung tipong ganon, no? So, and sa mga white rice, may iba't ibang klase ka pa ng white rice. So parang ganon din. Na itong carrageenan producing na eucumatoid na ang species is known as Capophycus alvarezi. This has been cultivated since the early 1970s or late 1960s, no? And then this has been clonally propagated. So alam mo naman, clonal propagation is basically the same genetic makeup pa rin, no? And meron tayong mga theory na about if you're clonally propagating something na through time nagiging weak na yung cultivar mo, no, na this will become more prone to diseases and more susceptible to environmental stressors. Kaya yung pag-aaral namin is more of looking into developing new cultivars na siguro mas resistant to climate change factors or to pests and diseases.
Actually, na-answer na ni Sir yung next question ko na parang short overview ng study nila. So, siguro Sir, can you enlighten us bakit nag-focus kayo sa Capophycus at hindi sa ibang species ng mga algae?
Yeah, sige. Dahil Capophycus alvarezi is one of the seaweed that is extensively farmed in the Philippines. So marami tayong mga coastal communities or mga seaweed farmers natin that are dependent on farming Capophycus alvarezi. So Capophycus alvarezi is producing Kappa carrageenan, and Kappa carrageenan is ang kanyang phycocolloid or kanyang cell wall polysaccharide has a lot of industrial uses, no? So it is used as binder, it is used as sa different industry, no, especially sa food, no, na yun ang thickening agent natin, binder, no. So For example, madami tayong mga produkto, halimbawa yung mga spam natin or mga meat products, paano sila bind together. We use this polysaccharide. So ito yung kappa carrageenan. Isa yan sa mga phycocolloid, no, na has many industrial uses, no. So in that regard, kaya ang ating global industry producing food, they are requiring more of this product. Kaya ang demand for we call it raw dried seaweed. So raw dried seaweed of Catophycus, no, or any other eucheumatoids has been increasing. No, so the demand has been increasing. Kaya ito yung binigyan pansin namin, or at least ng study group ko, dahil ito ang nagbibigay ng kabuhayan sa ating mga fisher folks natin, no, na additional livelihood ito nila, or sometimes this becomes their primary livelihood. When I was out of the country, because I just recently returned to the Philippines 2018, so I was mostly out of the country for several years, and then now I'm making a connection how I get into this kind of research, no, because when I was out of the country, I was working on brown seaweed, no, so it's what we call kelp, no, so I was in Europe. And then yung cultivation din ng kelp was parang booming, no, because it is also used for food and used also for alternative protein source for feeding the salmon industry in Norway, no. So and then I get tired now of working out of the country. I took I do call this a break as a balik scientist fellow of TOST. And then I was involved, engaged in seaweed farmers activity, no, na kasi ang aking host is sa MSI. I returned to my supervisor, si Dr. Edna Fortes, no, and then she was then working on Catophycus, and then yung involvement ko, I go to coastal communities, get to talk to seaweed farmers, and then I heard about their yung kanilang dilemma or mga challenges that they encounter as seaweed farmers, and one of their problems is ito ngang deteriorating seed stock, na yung kanilang mga binhi ay ang pagtubo is medyo mabagal na, or sila ay very sensitive na sa mga climate change factors, no, yung pag-iinit ng tubig, ng dagat, tapos sila ay mas vulnerable na sa diseases. So having this close encounter or association or discussion with farmers, para pang sabi ko, is it not time to come home na and do some research on improving the eucheumatoid seed stock nga? So that basically encouraged me na test the water, come back to the Philippines, serve the Philippines, work on the eucheumatoid seaweed industry, no, help what could be done to alleviate the challenges that is encountered by the seaweed farmers. So kaya iyon, no, na pag uwi ko ng Pilipinas, I concentrated on eucheumatoid seaweed. But definitely there are other species of seaweed din, no, na tipong madami ding uses at ginagawa ding kabuhayan ng ating seaweed farmers. But the eucheumatoid seaweed is a multi-million-dollar industry.
Ayun, so meron na tayong magandang background or overview or parang motivation ng study ni Sir Mikey. So sir, can you share with us ano yung naging methodology nyo dito sa research nyo para mag-develop ng novel cultivar and also yung naging results nyo?
Yeah. Okay. So like I mentioned, no, na yung ating seaweed farming industry or farming of eucheumatoid is based on vegetative propagation. So branch cutting, so it's basically clonal propagation. So for the last 50 years, we are basically has been using the same strain, clonally propagating it, no? And then maybe some of you don't know, no, na ang ating seaweed din ay merong male and female individual, and they undergo sexual reproduction. And alam naman natin, no, na sexual reproduction, basically you have an exchange in genetic material, and then you produce something better, no? Para bang, I don't know if it's okay to compare it with sa tayo sa tao, no, na parang kung meron kang matangkad na tatay at medyo hindi matangkad na nanay ang anak, or will inherit something, no, something parang that's a very simplistic way of comparing, no, pero it's more of using materials from sexual reproduction in such a way that we could maybe later on select a better trait, no, ng ating mga next generation. So yun ang ginawa namin, no, na we go on field sampling, and then we look at the wild population of these euchymatoids, and then we look for fertile material, no? So yung mga buntis. So pagka nakakita kami ng mga buntis na mga seaweed nitong euchymatoids.
Anong itsura ng, sir? Anong itsura ng tinatawag na buntis na seaweed?
Okay, that's a very good question, no? So meron tayong ang isa pang interesting sa life cycle nitong seaweed na inaaral namin, itong euchymatoids or itong Capophycus, ang kanilang life cycle is what we call as triphasic. So tatlong phases yon, no? So meron tayong male and female, we call it male and female gametophytes. Meron siyang the female produces the oogonium, and then the male produces the spermatogonium, and then meron kang egg, meron kang sperm, magpa-fertilize yun, no? And then pag nag-fertilize ito, pag na-fertilize ni sperm si egg, since ang egg na yon ay nasa female na individual, this develop into another phase, a small plantlet that inhabit the female. So yung next phase na yon is diminutive, so it's very minute plantlet phase na naka-attach sa female. Okay, so yung female na individual, meron doon plantlet na na-fertilize yun ng male. That's a product of the fertilization of the egg by the male sa sperm, tapos it developed into a plantlet, and para siyang how do you call this, not exactly parasitic, but it's attached on the female. And then that small plantlet produces what we call carpospores, no? And then that carpospores, when released, no, so that is basically 2N. No? So it's a diploid yung carpospore mo kasi yung male and female nag-combine. And then yung carpospores na yon, that will develop into a tetrasporophyte. And then the tetrasporophyte also undergo meiosis. So it produces tetraspores, no? So parang yun din ang pagiging nabubuntis din yung tetrasporophyte natin by the process of meiosis na nagproduce ng 4 spores, no? Tetraspores, that means 4, no? And then pag na-release yung tetraspores na yan, it will germinate into what we call as the gametophyte. So yun na ang magiging male and female gametophyte. So that basically closes the cycle, no? So meron kang tatlong phases, yung gametophyte, carposporophyte, at saka yung tetrasporophyte. Okay? So yung kinokolekt namin na buntis, itong madaling makitang buntis na cystocarpic female gametophyte, no? Ay makikita mo siya na parang mayroon siyang mga how do you call this? Parang pimple-like na protrusion. So nangingitim yon, no, na protruding cystocarp na pagka-ripe na yon, itim yon. So yun ang obvious na buntis, no, na female gametophyte na mayroong carposporophyte. So otherwise you also call it a cystocarp, no? And then madali siyang makita kasi parang may mga wart-like structure yan. Otherwise, pagka makinis yan siya, hindi mo malalaman kung male and female. So malalaman mo lang yung female yan pagka meron siyang wart-like protrusion. Okay. Yeah. And then yung tetrasporophyte naman na nag-undergo ng meiosis na nagpo-produce ng tetraspores, medyo mahirap yun siyang ma-identify. So kailangan mo gumawa ng cross-section. So under the microscope, makikita mo that it produces 4 spores. Oo. So pinakamadaling ma-recognize na buntis is yung female gametophyte na merong cystocarp. So madali siyang makita.
Ngayon ko lang nalaman na may ganong concept pala sa seaweed na yung male, female,
Yes.
sperm, egg cell. Para mas lalo tuloy akong na-confuse sa biology. Akala ko sa mga animals lang. Ano?
Yeah, meron din sa seaweed. No? So, yun, no? Kasi parang, I think it's, would be fascinating, no? Pagka na-communicate natin ito in a layman's term na to make people more interested, no? Kasi minsan din, pagka nagsi-seaweed farmers training and workshop kami, na-amuse din yung mga seaweed farmers natin, no? When we tell them, alam nyo ba na ang seaweed natin may lalaki at babae din. And then, yung tetrasporophyte na tinatawag namin no sex, sabi nila, ay, meron din palang seaweed na bakla. Yun ang term ng mga seaweed farmers natin, no? Na meron tayong male and female. Tapos yung no sex ay tinuterm nila ng it na parang gusto ko maging how do you call this? Ayaw ko maging, kasi baka mamaya ay mamisconnotate tayo telling na ano yung no sex na seaweed, no? Na kung ano tinatawag ng farmers doon. But anyway, that's the response ng farmer natin.
And so yung ginagawa niyo pala, sir, kukunin niyo sa field and then parang may
papaanakin namin sa
kayo
lab.
na
Hindi, papaanakin namin sa lab. Dadalhin namin yung buntis, dadalhin namin yung mga buntis sa lab, and then doon namin papaanakin. Pinapaanak namin yan sa mga glass slides. No? So, we do some spore induction protocol na pag nakita namin na buntis ito, or pag cross-section namin, meron tong tetraspores. So yung part ng tissue na yan, pinapa-release namin on glass slides. And then, pag na-release na yon, nakikita nyo na meron doon na parang pulbus na pula-pula, no? Na alam mo na nag-release na sila ng spores. And then, we cultivate them until na siya ay mag-germinate na. Then, you see some germlings, no? Na tumutubo siya unti-unti, no? And then, pag lumaki na siya, ini-scratch namin yan siya sa glass slides, and then, we cultivate it under aeration. So, tumbling na aeration, no, para mas madali siyang lumaki.
Hindi ko alam kung tama yung term na to. So, in a way, parang pino-force nyo siya na mag-evolve into a better species. Parang ganun po
ba? Not exactly forcing, but it's more of collecting them in the lab. Kasi, in nature, no? So, in nature, ang chances of their survival is very low, no? So they produce thousands of spores, pero itong spores pag na-release na yan, either kakainin yan ng isda, or kakainin ng invertebrates, or malilibing under the sediment. So ang chances ng mga spores na to survive under natural condition is very low. No? Kasi parang sabihin pa, it's a wild environment there. No? So siguro less than 1% of the several thousand of spores that is released could survive. So para bang we took some sample from the field na we are giving them more chance of surviving in the lab, at pag nag-survive sila sa lab at i-mass cultivate namin sila, mas madami tayong different specimen na most likely of different has different phenotypic traits na makarakterize natin, and then among the several hundreds, baka makakapag-classify tayo ng isang super strain or super cultivar. So it's more of selecting among these different spores that eventually survives into maturity na ma-characterize namin ang kanyang phenotypic traits. When you say phenotypic traits, yung kanyang growth rate, na mataas ang kanyang growth rate, na siya ay resistant to stress factors, na siya ay may magandang chemistry. So parang ano din yun tipo bang halimbawa magkakapatid, no? Maski magkakapatid kayo, siblings kayo, meron din kayo kanya-kanyang mga traits, iba-iba ang traits natin magkapatid. So kami, 11 kami magkakapatid, and even magkakapatid kami from one mother and father, may iba't ibang traits kaming magkakapatid. And this is also something that we also encountered in seaweed, no? Na may isang cohort kami ng magkakapatid from the same parental plant, and then when we cultivate them into maturity, they exhibit different phenotypes, different branching patterns, different colors, and then pag kinukultivate namin sila sa hatchery, they have different growth rates, no? So ano siya, na talagang ang kanilang phenotypic expression has genetic basis, no? Parang ako din, na ako mas maliit ako sa kapatid ko, or yung kapatid ko mas matalino sa akin, yung tipong ganon, no? Na merong iba't ibang phenotype yung kakapatid. Oo. So ganyan din sa seaweed, na yung next generation na nakukuha namin from one parent, kasi halimbawa meron kami isang parent na pinaanak, we could get as much as 100, 200 spores that develop into new seedlings, no? Pero ang limitation din namin, itong 100 seedlings, how could we keep them? Kasi ang limitation namin is space, at saka yung facilities, at saka yung ating how do you call this, ang ating resources. Kasi what we do, we consider each spore that develop into separate individuals as unique. So we don't mix them. So if you are parent one, you have 100 spores, we consider this 100 spores as different individuals. And then when they develop into maturity, we characterize these different individuals separately. Pero
gano'n pala sir katagal yung from dun sa spore hanggang sa lumaki na siya na?
Yeah, okay, that's a good question, no? So from our lab, no, from spores to the point na nagkaroon siya ng sexual differentiation, it took us about 10 months. No, 10 months yun. So from spores, siya itutubo into small germlings, how many centimeters to lalaki na siya. And then mga 6 months or 7 months, makakakita ka na ng mga several inches long, no? Pero ano pa yun siya, yung tinatawag namin, hindi pa siya differentiated. Hindi pa siya nag-sexually differentiate, especially yung ating mga individuals that develop from tetraspores, no? Yung ating panibagong generation ng gametophytes na hindi pa siya na-differentiate, no? So, but they already that big. Pero we observe differentiation na masasabi namin, ito ay babae, ito ay lalaki, about 10 months, 10 to 11 months. And then pwede na din siya mapuntis, no? Yung after 10, 11 months, mabubuntis na din yun siya. So, we could actually complete the whole life cycle in the lab.
Okay. So bali yung mangyayari pala sir, 'di ba, kukuha kayo dun sa field tapos dadalhin sa lab. Yung sample na yon papaanakin, tapos yung anak magkakaroon din ng anak.
Yeah.
Tapos magkakaroon ulit ng anak.
Yeah.
Okay. Hanggang sa may makita kayo na parang better
or the best among the rest. Tipong gano'n. Oo.
Nice. Pero paano nyo, sir, masasabi na better yung next generation? And also, ilang generations bago nyo naabot yung nasabi nyo na?
Yeah. So yun ang medyo matrabahong work, no? Because we do this, sinatawag na natin phenotypic characterization. So we characterize the phenotype, and ang pinaka-importanteng proxy doon is yung kanyang growth rate at saka yung kanyang carrageenan yield and quality, no? So pagka nahiwalay-hiwalay na namin yan, na ito ay individual 1 from parent 1, individual 2 from parent 1, individual 3 from parent 1. So we have one parent tapos different siblings, isa-isa yan namin kinakarakterize. So measuring the growth rate is basically so often, every week, every 15 days, we measure growth rate. And then masasabi namin na itong si individual 1 has higher growth rate than individual 3, which is his sibling or so doon na namin nakikita na among the different siblings, ito ang may pinakamataas na growth rate. So yun, isang candidate na yon. And then minamass produce namin yan, and then we analyze yung Paraginan yield and quality niya. So kasi hindi ibig sabihin na mataas ang growth rate mo na ang iyong Paraginan na pinoproduce is also the highest or the best. Hindi din yon. So kailangan na ma-characterize yung as many phenotypes as possible. So, yun ang pinaka-importanting measure namin, no? Yung sa una is growth rate at saka yung kanyang Paraginal yield and quality. And then eventually, yung kanyang susceptibility to diseases, no? So, ang daming proxy na kailangan mong i-measure para makasabi, ito, na-produce na natin si Superman 1. May highest growth rate, at mataas ang kanyang Paraginan yield and quality, at ang kanyang environmental tolerance is very broad. It could tolerate this range of temperature. It could tolerate this range of light. It could tolerate this range of salinity fluctuation, and then it is resistant to disease. Yun na ang pinaka how do you call this, absolute mong super crop, no, na lahat ay positive. If we encounter that, that's another question. But that is what we are doing now, no? Para bang rice din. Itong rice na to ay tumutubo doesn't need so much water. Ito ay sturdy or whatever. So ganun din ang hinahanap namin na to find a cultivar of this eucumatoid, Capophagus alvarezii, na has the best trait.
Ay, regarding that, sir, curious din ako. For example, makita nyo na yung kumbaga super species na yon. Paano nyo siya ma-mass produce na magiging katulad nga yung original na yon, hindi siya hindi siya mag-deteriorate?
Hindi mo na siya kailangan na maging, that's a good point, no? Kasi pagka nakita namin itong si super strain, we don't call it species because they are still one species.
Okay.
Makita natin si super strain or si super cultivar, and then we will be clonally propagating it, no? And then yun nga, no, na maybe after 50 years baka mag-deteriorate na din siya, no? So kaya continuous yung ating paghahanap or pagdevelop ng ating strain, no? So para bang siguro I don't know much about potatoes and rice, no, and corn, but it's the same concept na you continuously develop new strain of rice or new strain of corn or new strains of potato. I think yung sa crop management, no, we don't stop if we find something, if we find one that is good. I think we continue to develop, no, kasi with climate change, so anything happens, no. And then pagka ang problema pa kasi sa seaweed na to, our production is clonal, no? So since clonal siya, meron talagang chances that through time it undergoes mutation, and if that mutation is bad, so there could be some kind of a crop failure that will happen, no? Halimbawa merong disease or whatever kind of yung environmental perturbation or biotic disease na dadating, so pwede siya maapektuhan, and you could have a crop failure, no, na that could wipe out the whole production. Kaya siguro din importante din na meron tayong several super strain or several super cultivar na could be used maybe different time of the year or different places kasi mas suitable sila somewhere or during what time, yung tipong ganon. Na hindi tayo maging dependent sa isa lang. Kasi pagka nag-fail yung isa, meron tayong backup na iba pang pwede. So cultivar development is a continuous process.
Yung pag-develop din po ba, sir, ng super strain, paano nyo siya malalaman if, for example, magkakaroon siya ng effect dun sa tao na kakain? Compared dun sa...
I think kasi, ano ba ang epekto na gusto natin malaman? Kasi as far as chemistry ng seaweed, the seaweed produces some secondary metabolites, no, that could be unpalatable, or kasi as far as I know, wala naman talagang toxic na seaweed, no? So hindi katulad ng mga dinoflagellates or itong mga Alexandrium or whatever, itong mga hubs, no, that they produces toxin, no? So I don't know of any seaweed that produces specific toxin, but they have some secondary metabolites that if you consume it in a very high concentration, it could have negative effect, no? Pero hindi talaga na tipong toxic na makakamatay. So there are some cases of poisoning from eating seaweed. It's not because of the seaweed itself, but it's due to some dinoflagellate that attach on the seaweed. No. Oo. So yun ang nakakos ng poisoning from eating seaweed. Not the seaweed itself, but some toxic microorganisms that attach on the seaweed. Parang na kumain ka ng tahong, it's not the tahong that is toxic, but that yung tahong na yon ay madami siyang na-ingest na toxic microalgae.
Ayun. So dito sir, in doing this kind of research, paano nyo siya na-fund or anong klaseng funding yung kailangan, and also yung mga tools?
Yeah, like I said, no, na it's very labor intensive, no, pag-aalaga ng ating gene bank, no, at saka yung ating hatchery facility sa Bolinao. When I came back from out of the country, yung first source of funding ko is yung mga small time lang na UP funded, no? And then meron din akong connection sa labas that I was able to apply for UKRI funding, so UK na funding. And then eventually I got the OSP project, no? Medyo competitive yung ating mga fund applications, and then I get some private funding then. So kailangan talaga ng funding support, no, to maintain our gene bank, our laboratory, and then our hatchery. So like I said, it's labor intensive kasi paglilinis ng mga seaweed na nasa gene bank natin, paglilinis ng seaweed na nasa hatchery natin sa Bolinao. So kailangan ng madaming tao. Aside from maglilinis, mag-measure ng growth rate, no? Kasi gumagawa tayo ng mga phenotypic characterization, no? So sa awa ng Diyos, kahit papaano may nakukuha mga small time funding, and then may nakuha din kaming funding from CHED, no? So I have different sources of funding. So international funding, and then locally from DOST, from CHED, and also in-house, and also from UP system, no? So kailangan lang masipag lang submit ng proposal para makakuha ng funding, at saka pangsweldo din ng mga estudyante at saka ng ating mga lab aid.
Ayun. So can you share with us sir yung mga memorable experiences nyo in doing this study, yung the good, the bad, and the ugly?
It's mostly good, no? Kasi especially you get to go places, no? And then you get to interact with seaweed farmers, no? So I enjoy doing research, no? Primarily, you get to interact with different people from the government, no, to the locals, and then to collaborating scientists, no. And I siguro ang the bad and ugly is pagka nag-field trip kayo na biglang may masamang panahon, no? So yun na siguro ang bad and ugly. But as far as I'm concerned, or yung experience ko, I mean, everything has been good. I mean, doing a field work and research, siguro ang lang, I don't know if I could consider it as part of bad and ugly, is yung when it comes to funding, especially yung government natin, no, na madami tayo kailangan sundin ng mga rules and regulation in terms of reimbursing the expenses, but I would not consider it as bad and ugly. So maybe that's part of the system, pero pwede natin ma-improve yon to make our life easier. But it is what it is, and we try to follow the guidelines. But doing research has been very enjoyable for me.
Ay sir, curious pala ako. Yung method nyo ba, or rather yung results nyo, parang na-apply nyo na siya sa community? Like tinuturo nyo na siya sa mga seaweed farmers?
It is it need you need to have a space and you need to have a clean lab. You need to have yung mga culture facilities. So even if matuturo namin ito, medyo wala silang resources to maintain the gene bank and the hatchery themselves, no? So tinuturo ito namin sa mga collaborating SUCs natin or sa BFAR, for example, BFAR Region 8, may collaboration kami doon and they were trained how to do it, no? So, given the resources, kasi sabi ko nga, this is resource intensive, no? Madami kang kailangan na fund. So, they could do it. So, I've been training private companies or international universities. Meron akong international collaborators. I went to Indonesia, I went to Madagascar to train them to do this spore release and then cultivating from spores to maintain the lab, no? So this could easily be how to call it, shared to different stakeholders, even to farmers, provided that they have the resources and the infrastructure to maintain it. Yun lang siguro.
Ayun, so medyo na-preempt ko na yung next question. Ano pa yung plans niyo moving forward with this research?
So continue pa rin until we find that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 super strain, no, or super cultivar, and hopefully we get more funding kasi medyo may project kami na nag-end na tapos walang kapalit na project. So this is a long-term program kasi ang part ng plano namin is understand yung halimbawa microbiome ng ating eumatoids, because the microbiome, yung mga associated microorganisms sa kanilang mga katawan, this might has something to do with their health and susceptibility to diseases, no? So isa din yun sa gusto namin aralin. And then in terms of selective breeding na in the lab, pwede kami mag-pair ng male and female kasi ngayon kumukuha lang kami from the wild, no? Pero sa lab, pwede ba natin gawin yun na mag-pair kami ng male and female para mas under control namin yung kanyang phenotypic traits na nalalabas, no? So continuous itong program. So siguro in the next 10, 20 years, I could still keep myself busy on improving the strain, no? And I hope somebody will take over me, no? I'm not the one who started this, no? Like for example, I was saying that when I returned, when I first I came to the Philippines for a short-term balik scientist fellowship. I was hosted by Edna Fortes, who was my master's MSc supervisor, no? And then she started doing something and which I further developed kung anong meron ako ngayon. So this was not a rocket science na ako ang nag-isip lang. So parang it's more of observing and then fine-tuning what she was doing. Kasi dati yung kanyang protocol ay iba sa akin, no? Yung protocol niya dati ay halo-halo lahat. So nagtaka ako. Sabi ko, Nanay Ed, I call her nanay, no? Nanay Ed, bakit itong mga anak ay iba-ibang itsura? Paano nangyari yan? So parang doon nag-stop yung kanyang work. So me is more of understanding bakit at hinihiwalay-hiwalay ko na sila ngayon para talaga alam natin na ito ay magkaiba, even magkakapatid sila, yung tipong ganun, no? So I further developed fine-tuning the protocols and everything, and hopefully pag nag-retire ako, somebody will follow my step, or I could bequeath this to some new researcher, no? And could further work on the molecular aspect, genetic aspect, understanding something more deeper, no? And yeah, and in the end, it's more of for the benefit of our seaweed farmers and for the economy of the country. Kasi, like I said, no, it's a multi-million-dollar industry, and it brings a lot of dollars to our country. Itong seaweed industry na to.
Ang tagal niya rin pala na experiment kasi may napanood ako dati na YouTube video.
Oo.
Pero bacteria naman yung in-experiment nga, tapos yung pangalan ng video, longest running evolution experiment. Kasi parang 1960s or 30s niya sinimulan padamihin yung bacteria, and then kumuha siya ng maliit na population tapos pinatubo parang ganun.
Something ganon, no? So I follow it through several generations. So,
Ayun. So, ano po yung ma-advise nyo sa mga aspiring researchers?
I think I could not give a generic advice, no. Like for example, I mentioned earlier, parang it was by chance that I am now working on seaweed. It was not my first love, but when I fell in love with it, parang true love ko ang seaweed, no. Pero hindi yun ang first love ko. I think it's more of nurturing your passion and then know your limitation and build up on your strength, no? And then eventually if you become a scientist, siguro kailangan din na ano ka din, how do you call this, masipag ka din or may how do you call this, may passion ka din magsulat ng mga technical reports kasi it's a matter of communicating your results, no? Kasi pag may results ka lang at hindi mo ma-communicate to the science community, and now I hope I'm communicating it to lay people or to non-expert, no? Somehow kung may mali ako kasi sinabi ko ay I hope wala. So it's more of educating. I hope it's more of educating the people, and then maybe being able to impart your knowledge, and then find your niche, no, and find where you will be happy. So I think yun lang siguro masasabi ko sa mga aspiring scientists or people who want to be in science. I mean, life is full of surprises. I mean, hindi ko talaga ito inisip na ito ako magiging. Parang it's just slowly evolve, no? Para pang siguro yung interest mo, you keep an open mind, no? Maski dati gusto ko corals and fish, and then I was given the opportunity to work on seaweed, na-develop yung passion ko doon, and then here I am, no? So tipong ganun siguro.
Ayun. So before we let you go, sir, do you have anything to promote?
Next year, 2025, the International Phycological Congress will be held in Panglao, in Bohol. So phycology is the study of algae, no? So it's an International Phycological Congress that will be hosted by UPMSI. So I am the convener. So I'm actually also busy working on the not only the program, the website, and a lot of things to be prepared for this event. No, so first time that Philippines will host the International Phycological Congress. It's the 13th edition. And this happens every 4 years. Previously, it was held in Chile. Pero that was the time of COVID, so nangyari doon ay naging online sila. But this time we'll do face-to-face. It will be in Bohol. So everybody who is working on algae, not only seaweed, microalgae, cyanobacteria, macroalgae, look into our website. So it's the International Phycological Congress 2025 in Bohol, no? And would be nice to meet you there.
Ayun. So, thank you very much, Sir Mikey, sa pagbibigay niyo ng inyong oras and expertise sa episode na ito. And hopefully, nagkaroon din ng bagong appreciation yung ating viewers and listeners pagdating sa seaweed industry sa Pilipinas. And also, mag-submit kayo ng abstract sa conference. Yes. For anyone na interested din mag-share ng study nila, scan nyo lang yung QR code and fill up nyo yung Google form. Thank you.
Okay, bye!